Okay, so before we actually start going into MATLAB, I'm gonna go to Canvas. And we're gonna go over the project. Oh yeah, so, well, before I do that even, for today's quiz, that it's only gonna be one question. You'll have 15 minutes to work on it. We're gonna start at 11 a.m. for the quiz. And instead of last time, because I don't think that worked out very well, it didn't work out very well when I had you go into MATLAB yourself and then send me the M file. I mean, that's it's easier for me to grade for something like plotting, but for today's quiz, I'll just have you actually type it in a text box on Canvas. So, let me stop sharing really quick because I wanna show you what it's gonna look like, but I don't want to accidentally open up the quiz. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so this isn't what it's going to look like exactly, but I'm gonna have, our question up top here for today's quiz. And then instead of this kind of fill in the blank, you're gonna have just one big text box where you can put in your answer. So the quiz is on the if statement. So you're just gonna, you can use MATLAB first if you want. But then you'll have to copy and paste your code into the text box. And also make sure that your formatting is correct. So you know that when we use the if statement, we have if something, and then on the next line when we put our statements, that's there's an indentation. So I'll talk about it again right before we actually do the quiz, and I have instructions laid out on the quiz as well, so it should be clear. Yeah, we only have one question, and you're going to put in your answer on Canvas and submit it on Canvas. Okay, so that's going to be the quiz. And then I want to go to the deliverables for the project. I didn't add anything. If you've seen my messages on Discord, some of the announcements that I've made, there were like a few little things that I had to update for my graphs that I didn't catch. Like sometimes I put in, for one graph I had, I think like per 100,000 and it should have been per million. And then I accidentally applied the moving mean twice one time. So again, I didn't change any deliverables, but you'll see that I updated some of these figures. So I just kind of want to go over that. So the formatting that I have here on the deliverables for these figures, you don't have to follow them exactly. If we look here for the section for expected figures at the very top, there's the formatting for the axes, the ticks, the tick labels, etc. They should be similar to what I have, but they don't have to be exact. So if you think there's a better method to go about it, like maybe you are formatting all of these kind of country names down here a bit differently than I am, you can do that if you want. I just want your graph to be easy to read, basically, and informative. So, it should say top 5 cumulative COVID-19 cases for each country. And then you should show the final date that we're using, which, remember, for our project is November 6th. So at the very top of the handout, highlight it. Okay, right there. The figures in your report should include COVID-19 data up to November 6th. Okay, so the only thing that I require for the figures is not using exponents for the units. I guess that I should also say that there's an exception, and that's for the logs, the plots for the log scale. And I have another thing I have to update, so I'm sorry. I hope I'm not confusing all of you, but this shouldn't be formatted like this. I should have exponents here because we have a log scale. So it should look like this. So Yeah, sorry about the other thing I have to update now. Yeah, the project is due on the 9th, but you have to include data from November 6th. Okay, project due on the 9th, but the figures in your report should be up to November 6th. I'll upload that basically as soon as it's available. So I don't know when they actually update it for that day, but I'll keep like looking at the data sets. Okay, so yeah, the only thing that I update is the little mistakes I've made in my own graphs. So anyways, you can just kind of keep an eye on this. There's only one other thing I have to fix though, which is now looking at my figures, the where is it now? It was the exponents for one of the log plots. Yeah, this one right here. Okay, so if there's any questions on the project, well, either ask now, ask in Discord, or send me an email. Okay. All right, let's open up MATLAB. Okay, first states, do you want us to include NYC in the District of Columbia? I don't think I included the District of Columbia, but I did include New York City because they had so many cases. And I think that's why, this data set, they put New York City as, in quotes, a state because there were so many cases. If you include the District of Columbia, I won't mark you down, but some of these states, they have like virtually 0 cases, and they're actually, not states. Like we have stuff like the Virgin Islands, stuff like that. Okay. So today we're going to be doing a lot of little exercises. So, every class you should have MATLAB opened up, but really make sure that you have MATLAB opened up today because we're just going to be working on a lot of exercises. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go over one exercise for the if statement. So this will be kind of review for your quiz that you're going to have today. So I'm gonna work with you to start out this script, and then I'll have you guys work on the rest. Is it the 4th, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're going to make a string array that's gonna be called fruits, and this is going to contain banana, apple, blueberry, strawberry, and raspberry. And the goal that we have to achieve, I guess, is we want to display I love bananas if random fruit is equal to the index of banana. So I'm going to go over this part with you. It's very good if random fruit is equal to the index of strawberry. And look at the hairs if random fruit is equal to the index of raspberry. And meh if none of the above conditions are met. So that'll be if we have apple or blueberry. Okay, so let's start this out. So I'm going to put in here random underscore fruit equals randy. And then I'm going to put length of fruits. Of course, I first need to define my string array. So I'm going to put in the fruits equals, and to make a string array, we're going to use brackets, and then I'll do banana, apple, strawberry, and then we have raspberry. Okay, I'm going to run my code, and then I'll save the file. Alright, so if I click on our string array that's called fruits, then we see that we have banana, apple, strawberry, raspberry. Banana, apple, oh, I forgot blueberry. Yeah, I thought it was one short. Okay, blueberry. There we go. Okay, so now if I open this up, then we have all 5 of our fruits here. And then this line of code on line 9, random underscore fruit equals randy, length of fruits, that's going to give us a number from 1 to 5 by random. It's going to do randomly. So let's first unsuppress this line. And I'm going to run this a few times and we'll look at the output that we have in the command window. So there's 3, there's 5. So if I keep running it, we're going to get different numbers. So what you have to do right now on your own is use the if statement, and you're going to be using if else and else to write the following code that we see here. So I love bananas. If random fruit is equal to the index of banana, it's very good if random fruit is equal to the index of strawberry. You already saw all of that. Okay, so you're going to work on this on your own for a few minutes, and then we'll go over it. So I'm going to make, I'm going to make this bigger. Alright, I'm going to give you guys about 1 more minute. Maybe I'll launch a poll again, so I can actually know how far you are. Okay, I'm going to give you 45 more seconds. Okay, let's go over this. So, I just want to say again that today we're just going to be doing a lot of exercises. So, we're going to talk about a few new things, but mostly we're going to be doing exercises, even for the new things that we're doing, because I think that'll be, well, I think it's the best way to actually learn how to use MATLAB. So, I want to make sure that all of you are actually working on the exercises and not just watching. I'm not saying any of you are doing that, but I just want to make sure that all of you are working on the exercises for your own benefit. Okay, so for a lot of this stuff, there might be a few ways that you can go about it, but I'm going to show you the way that I'm personally going about it. So I'm going to first type out if random fruit is equal, so we're using our logical operator for equal or equal to, find string compare fruits, comma, banana. Okay, so in this line, we're saying if random fruit, so remember random fruit, this line of code, this is going to give us a number from 1 to 5. So we can think of it in a way that random fruit is really giving us some index value for one of these fruits. So right now random fruit equals 3, so that would correspond to the index of blueberry. And here what I'm doing is kind of doing this in a more explicit way where I'm saying if random fruit is equal to find string compare, so I'm going to find the index when fruits is equal to our string of banana. Okay, so I'm using string compare for our vector called fruits, or our string array called fruits, and I'm comparing the string of banana. And when I'm using the function here called find, this will find the index for banana. So I'm saying if random fruit is equal to the index of banana, then we're going to display I love bananas. I do love bananas. Okay. So does that make sense? I want to make sure everyone gets that.
Could we not have just put equals banana?
Maybe you can
That
actually.
got me an error.
You got an error?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I
Yeah.
tried what she tried.
Yeah.
I got an error.
Yeah, that might not work because MATLAB doesn't know a way to kind of explicitly look through the vector that way. Yeah, we can also put just 1, but how I have it here, it can make it easier if we have like a really, really big array. So, I want to be, I'm using kind of techniques that we used in our project. So if we put just 1, we would have had to manually know the index for a banana. But this way, since I'm using this function here, these two functions, I don't have to know the index myself. I can just say find the index for me. Yeah, so again, this way, if we had like a really big array, kind of like our project, I can just say find the string when we have banana, and that'll give us the index. Okay, so there we have banana, and then we're going to do else if random fruit equals to find string compare of fruits, and then we're going to put strawberry. And then we'll display it's very good. And you'll see here, I'm going to put 2 apostrophes for its. If I only have 1, then MATLAB is going to think that all I had was these 2 letters here for it. So if you want to include an apostrophe in your text, you have to put 2 apostrophes. Okay, so we have it's very good. Okay, and then we have else if random fruit is equal to find string compare fruits and then raspberry.
What does the strcmp mean again?
That's string compare.
String compare. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then we're gonna display. Look at the hairs because it's hairy. And then we're gonna say else. So if none of these conditions are met, if we aren't, if random underscore fruit, if that doesn't give us a value of either 1, 4, or 5, then we're gonna display meh. Okay, and then we have to end it. So I'm gonna type in end. Okay, let's run our code and see if it works. Okay, so I'm not suppressing random fruit just so we can kind of visualize or confirm that our code is working. So we see random fruit equals 5. So that's corresponding to our last index here, which is raspberry. So we display, look at the hairs. Let's keep running it. So now we have index 4. So that corresponds to strawberry. So we get it's very good. And you'll see in our command window here, we're displaying only this one apostrophe here. So if I delete that apostrophe, now we're going to get this error here. Because it looks like MATLAB is looking at this and saying that we terminated it right here for it. And then we just have this other kind of add-on apostrophe at the end. So if we want an apostrophe in our string that we're displaying, we have to put 2 apostrophes at that location. Okay, so let's keep running this. Now we have index of 1, so we have banana. I love bananas. Okay, there we go. So finally we got an index of 2. So that corresponds to apple. And that if it's apple or an index of 2, that doesn't correspond to any of these 3 conditionals. So because of that, we display meh. Okay, any questions on that?
I did only
Yeah.
oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
question.
I did only like the banana, like if banana then end, but I have an error. It's like error for the random fruit.
For this line 9.
Yeah, no, the banana one. If
Line
random
11.
fruit equal, yeah.
Okay, so you did if random fruit equals find string compare fruits banana, and then what do you have after that?
I just put a display, I love bananas, and then end.
Okay, so you're gonna have to put in an else statement too. That's probably why.
Oh,
Because if you start it with an if statement, then MATLAB expects you to put in an else statement as well, because it needs to satisfy those kind of 2 conditions.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a few questions. Can you use or if you want to display it's very good, strawberry and blueberry? Yeah, so I think you're saying if I do string compare for strawberry or blueberry, right? Yeah, you could do that. So in that case, we could, if we use string compare, then I can't put 2 strings in this argument here. I can only put in 1 string. So in that case, we could do something like we did before where we do isMember. So we would have to do isMember, and then we would have to put in this argument here a reference to some array that contains strawberry and blueberry. Yeah, that's what we put. So we did an example on that before for one of the baseball examples. So we could do that. We just need to put strawberry and blueberry in their own array. Or you can just add on. Let's actually see if this works. We could do or, so that's our logical operator, or find string compare fruits, comma, blueberry. Okay, yeah. Yeah, let's try this. Let me make this bigger. Oops. Okay, balancing my parentheses. Okay, so we had 4, so that was strawberry, so we got it's very good. Let's keep running this. Oh, I just saw 3, but let's see. Well, it just did run. It went really quick, but 3 came up and it worked. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so yeah, we can do it this way, or we can do it the way when we have is member. Okay, so there's another question. How do we know when we should use double quotes or just a single quote? So we use double quotes when we're defining a string, and a single quote that's often used for some kind of for the plot. You know, when we're plotting, we put a title. That's when we use single quotes. So there's no like explicit kind of contrast, but we use a double quote if we're defining a string. So but MATLAB, sometimes both of them work. So again, there's not like an explicit kind of cutoff. So let's see if I could have defined this string array with just single quotes. Because again, sometimes, you know, parentheses work for some things or brackets. So this might be the case too for fruits. And okay, so in this case, this didn't work. So here, if we use single quotes, then we just get a character array. So a character array, that's just containing each character. So you see that this is a 1x11 character array. So MATLAB doesn't interpret this array as if it's 2 words. It just sees each letter. So that's why we're using double quotes up top here. Okay, so Karen answered the double equal sign. So yeah, that's we're checking if something is equal to something. And then I think there's one more question too. Yeah. Okay, so can you go into a bit of detail for why we use the string compare function? Yeah, okay. So the string compare function that we used here, string compare is going to look at our string array that's called fruits. So it's going to look at all of these strings that are in this array, and it's going to give us a logical answer for when an index in fruits is equal to banana. So I'm going to go in the command window, and we're just going to use the string compare function. So I'll do string compare fruits, comma, banana. And this is going to give us a 0. So this it should actually look through everything here. Maybe in this case it didn't like it like that. Oh, okay, no. So it's giving us a 0 because not every index in fruit is equal to banana. So string compare by on its own, that's just a logical operator. So it's looking at our string array for fruits, and it's seeing if, in this case, if every value in fruits was equal to banana. Because that's not true, we get a 0. But what I want to do is I want to find the index for when fruits is equal to banana. So that's why we use the find function. So we'll do find string compare fruits, comma, banana. And okay, it's giving us nothing here. I don't know why it's giving us nothing here. Because, yeah, it's not doing it. But you see that it worked in our code up here, so maybe I just have to run it in a script. But in this case, yeah, okay, I'll get to that in a second. So in this case, we used the inner code here, and it worked up here. But what it's doing is it's finding the index for when we have a string in our string array fruits that is equal to banana. Okay, so Min, you said that I use both double quotes and single quotes for the display code in both work. So yeah, sometimes both methods work, just like you saw for string compare here. I can use either double quotes or single quotes, and both of them work. Okay, so any other questions on this example? Okay. Alright, so now we're going to go through some for loop exercises. So I don't have too many, but you know, all these questions are good so far. So I want you to keep asking questions for the other examples, and then it should take up all of this lecture, probably even into next class too. Okay, so for our first example here, we're going to use a for loop to display the following values. So for this, I want you to first make an array. So I guess I'll give you starter code as well for this. Let me make sure that that's what okay. So I'm going to have a point for why we're doing this in a bit. So what I first want you to do is define the array y. So I'll go through that with you. So we're just going to do y equals 1. Actually, just do like this. 1 is 0.5 to 10. Okay, so we're starting at 1. We have a step size of 0.5, and then we're going to 10. And now what I want you to do is write code using a for loop to display basically every value. So you're going to write code to display every single value in the command window. So we're using the same function that's called display up here. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute or two to work on that. Okay, so let's go over this example here. I'm going to first comment out everything from here just because I don't want it to be displayed in our command window. Okay, so we have to use a for loop to display the following values. So we need to display I have dots here, so you know I want you to display basically every value for this vector that we made. So of course I could just type in y in the command window and then I could see every value, but we're just going through this exercise to understand the kind of the format and the logic for a for loop. Okay, so we have our vector y, and now what we're going to do is for I. So remember I, or I could put any letter that I want. That's going to be our index or our counter for our for loop. So I'm going to say for I equals 1 to the length of y, display y sub I, and then end. So what this is going to do, we have our counter I, and that's going to go from 1, so the first value in y, to the length of y, so that'll go to the last value of y. So remember the length function, that's going to give us the length or the amount of elements for some vector that we created. So in this case, we're going from 1 to 10 with a step size of 0.5, so that has a length of 19. We could also see that, in the command window without typing anything, that y is 1 by 19 double. Okay, so we're going from our first value in y to the last value in y. And as we go through each pass, we're going to display y sub I. So that will display, for our first pass, we're going to display y sub 1, which will be 1. And then in our second pass, we're going to display y sub 2, which will be 1.5. And then we're going to continue on like that. Yeah, you could, if you just put y sub I, in this case, it should actually, yeah, it will show up, but you're going to see it shows answer. If I do display y sub I, then it doesn't show answer, it actually just displays it in, just this kind of number format. Okay, so if I run our code, then I already ran it, of course, but then we see each value for our vector y. So we have 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and so on until the end of the vector. Okay, so does that make sense to everyone, or any questions?
How did you get the format for your outputs to be only the necessary values and not all zeros after the decimal?
Not all zeros after the decimal.
I'm
Oh,
sorry. I'm sorry. I meant, how'd you trim off the excess zeros?
that's just a formatting thing for your MATLAB install. So you can do just in your command window format, and then I think I currently have it to short G. And then try running your code like that, and then it should look like mine.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the for loop? Okay, so it's a pretty simple for loop. Okay, so now we're going to do this next one here. So we're first going to make our vector x, and then we're going to write a for loop that is only going to contain the even numbers from 0 to 100 for some new variable y. So again, I'll start this off with you. So for loop exercise 2. Okay, so we're going to define our vector x equals 0. I can explicitly say that we have a step size of 1, and then we're going to go to 100. Okay, then we're going to use a for loop, and inside that for loop, we're going to create a variable y that only has the even numbers from 0 to 100. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to work on this as well. Okay, I'm gonna give you around 30 more seconds. Okay, let's go over this. Looks like, yeah, the majority of you finished it. Okay. So hopefully you actually worked on it and didn't spoil it for yourself by looking at the next part of the slide. Okay, so we have our vector x that's going from 0 to 100. And we want to display only the even values for this vector. And we're going to store it in a new variable that's called y. So we're going to do for I equals 1. And now you see I'm actually using, I'm basically defining a vector right here. So for I equals 1, and then we're using a step size of 2, and then we're going to the length of x. So here I'm starting at the first value in our vector of x, so that's our first position here, which is a 0. And then I'm using a step size of 2, so then I'm going to go to 2. So this will allow us to just go to all of our even numbers, and then I'm going to the length of x. So that'll go to the full length of our vector, where we're going to stop at 100. And then all I have to do is y sub I equals x sub I. So I have to do y sub I because I want to store each value that we have for, like, as we go through each pass. So if I only put y equals x of I and I run the code, then if I go here, if I double click on y, then you see that all we have stored is 100. Now, if you see in the command window, we see all of the values here because it's showing us each pass that we had in our for loop, but it's only storing the one value because I didn't define y sub I. So if I do y sub I, and then I run it, and then I click on y, then you see that we have all of the values that we have here. Why is it 1.5? Okay, give me a sec. Let me comment this out.
Yeah, I got all the
Oh.
odd numbers using that.
I should have done x equals 0 to 100. Actually, no. Okay, let me think on this for a second.
It divides every even number, every odd number by 2. It's weird.
Yours is dividing. It shouldn't divide.
Yeah, because on mine, when I click on y, it says 1, then 1.5, then 3, then 2.5, then 5, then 3.5, then 7, and so on.
Okay. I'll make a little follow-up video after this. Because I'm not seeing the issue straight away here, but I'll make a follow-up video and then I'll post that. Because it should just show us our even numbers. You see, I have even numbers here, but it's oh yeah, so our length here should actually be half of our vector. So right now it is displaying just our even values for how I have it here. But since we specified our length to go from 1 to the length of x, it's doing this for each value that we have in our vector x. We had 100 values, so it's showing 100 values for our, or 101 technically, I guess, for our vector y. If we do divided by 2, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Okay, so yeah, I'll go over this after class and I'll make a follow-up video, so sorry about that. So there is a good question though. Ignacio and Fabiola have a question. Why doesn't it start at 0? So when I say for I equals 1 to the length of x, that's because MATLAB starts counting from a value of 1. So if I type in the command window x of 1, that gives us a value of 0. That's our first value in our vector x. So we're not putting from I equals 0 to the length of x because MATLAB doesn't start counting for a value of 0. It starts at 1. Okay, so I wanted to make a point though that what we're doing here is an explicit loop, but a lot of the functions that we use in MATLAB, they do things kind of implicitly. They do implicit loops. So we saw this from before when we did element by element operations. So if we had two vectors like x and y, so let's actually show this really quick. We have vector x and a vector y. Let's actually just say y equals x. And then if we added those vectors, then we're doing an element by element operation here, which is actually an implicit loop because we're going through each element for these vectors element by element. So that's doing a loop, but implicitly, because we didn't actually explicitly define a for loop. So here, we're actually going to do what we just did, but we're going to use an implicit loop. And let's actually see what the output is for this. So we're going to put yy equals x of 1. Let's delete that. X of 1 to 2, so our step size is 2, and then we're going to the end. If we look at yy, so then, yeah, this one is working correctly, how I want it to. And I'm just trying to think about this, why our for loop wasn't working correctly. It's half working right now. Okay, yeah, basically, I need to divide this length by 2, but when you saw before when I did that, then it was still truncated where it didn't actually go to 100. So again, I'll make a follow-up video on that, but if we did this loop implicitly, and I guess correctly in this case, then we have a length of 51 values, and we're only having the even values in this case. We're starting at 0, and we go 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on. Okay, Min is saying that we should have started at 2. Oh, I have divided by x here. So in this case, it's yeah, it's the same kind of thing that I just had where, yeah, this is gonna work for our odd numbers, but we need to have this actually only have 51 values, not 101. If you just put in y, then that's only gonna save one value. So if I actually then double click on y, then I only have one value. So yeah, you see in the command window it iterated correctly. But if you look in your workspace, it only saved one value. We're putting y sub I because we want to store more than one value. Yeah. So yeah, I need to basically amend this part where our length shouldn't be 101 values. It should be 51. So I'll make up that video. I'll make the follow-up video. Okay. We have one more exercise. We'll probably actually go over this together. Since we're almost out of time. Okay, so we're gonna make a for loop here. So we're going to make this vector x, so we're going to go from 0 to 50 with a step size of 2. Then we're going to use a for loop to calculate the square root for all values that are less than or equal to 25. And then we're going to calculate the cube for all values that are greater than 25. Okay, so I'm going to do, first, I'll do for loop exercise 3, and then I'll do x equals 0, step size of 2, and we're going to 50. Okay, and then what we're going to do is for I, and then we're going to use our kind of formatting of 1 to the length of x. And then we're going to do if x of I, so this is going to look at every single value in our vector x here. If x of I is less than or equal to 25, then some value or some variable n is going to be equal to the square root of x of I, because we want to iterate through every value of x. And then else m of I minus the length of n. So this is actually what I'm doing right now. We probably have to do something similar to this in our code up here. So I'll go over this in a second. So m sub I minus the length of n is equal to x of I cubed. And then we're going to terminate our if statement. And then we're going to terminate the for loop. Let me suppress that line of code. Okay, so when I run this now, first I'm going to recap what we're doing. So we're going from I equals 1 to the length of x. So that's going from 0 to 50. And then our first statement here is if some value in our vector of x is less than or equal to 25, then we're going to compute the square root of that value and store it in some variable or some array called n. Else, if that's not satisfied, then we're going to calculate the cube for that value and store it in some array called m. So if I look at n here in the command window or in our workspace, we see all of our values here, and here we have a length of 13. So the length of x is 26. So I should have 13 values in n, which I do. And I should also have 13 values in m, because that's going to contain values for the rest of the values in x that weren't satisfied in this line right here. If I open up m, then again I have a 1 by 13 double. And this shows us every value that's not less than or equal to 25. So here we can actually do a quick check that our code is working correctly. So what I'll do is basically delete the math operations that we were doing. So in this case, I'm going to say if x is less than or equal to 25, then for this value or this array n, we're just going to display the actual value in x. And then likewise for this array m, we're going to display the corresponding value for x. So now if I run this and I open up n and m, our array for n, that should only contain values from 0 using a step size of 2 up to 24. And that's what we have here. And then our vector for m, that should go from 26 up to 50. And that's what we see. So we start at 26 and then we're going up to a value of 50. Okay, so that's working for us. So I'll touch on why we use this formatting later on, because we only have 3 minutes till the quiz starts. But here I'm doing m sub I minus the length of n, so I have a length of 13 for our array m. So this is kind of, we need to do something similar to what I did here for our previous example, and then our array should be correct. But yeah, you guys only have 3 minutes until the quiz starts, so I want to make sure that you can get to the quiz right now. And again, it's one question. You have 15 minutes to work on it. and you're going to submit your answer in a text box on Canvas. Make sure that your formatting is correct. So you should have these indentations for your if. You have your if statement, and then below that, you should have that indentation like that. All right, so I'm going to stay on the call. I'm going to mute my mic, but I'll stay on the call, and you guys can go to the quiz right now. And you can, of course, either stay in here or you can leave. I don't know if the formatting is going to stay the same or not, so you just need to tab it though. So just put in 4 spaces. Okay, I don't know if I was thinking I was going to say it or if I actually said it, but you can stay in here if you want, if you have any questions during the quiz, or you're free to leave if you want as well. Okay, I'm going to mute my mic right now.